Hello and welcome. I thought I'd share some discoveries to do with numerology. I've titled this video the summary video because it's very much about summaries. Now the number 7344 is of huge significance. I'm using the chronology that has been shown by our KX channel, and I thought let's have a look at this number 7344 and also the number 2448. Can we see this from any other angles? So first off, what is the significance of 7344? You can go to our KX and ask questions about different things and you'll get answers. So I put this question, so the reply that came through was our KX model starts at 5239 BC. That's year one of the Anuna chronology of 600-year periods called the Great Year. 5239 is year one, and the 7,344 fourth year is 21 and 6 AD. The descent of the chief cornerstone connected with the Great Pyramid. This is precisely 7,344 years, or 2,448 years times 3. And 2448, Annus Mundi, was the year of the Exodus. 2448 is exactly 1/3 of the entire simulacrum chronology to the arrival of the chief cornerstone. And further, because 7,344 is 2,448 times 3, it's the year of Exodus, as I said, in the Old Testament. It was the number for a people who are in a land they do not belong to be removed from it. This is just one way of looking at it. There are many other ways what the same data can show. So I thought, let's have a look at and use things that I have a certain amount of knowledge about. So the first of these is St. Florian Monastery, and particularly the priory in which is housed two organs, one of which, the larger, is known as the Bruckner organ. It's the organ that the composer Anton Bruckner played and no doubt came up with the themes for many of his symphonies. The monastery was founded in the early 9th century and opened in 1071. The priory possesses two organs, the larger of which is the Bruckner organ, and it contains 4 manuals. That's like 4 keyboards, like on a piano. They're called terraces. They're stepped, basically. 103 working stops. Now, I've not been able to establish if there were more stops in total, but every reference to this Bruckner organ mentions 103 working stops. And of course 7,343 pipes. And Bruckner was the organist at St. Florian from 1848, the year of the Dresden Uprising. Now if we take the year 102, that's the isometric marker between that 1848 uprising in Dresden, and if we take the same number of years the other side of 1902, we come to 1956 with the Hungarian uprising. So uprisings in Europe roughly in Central Europe, equidistant from the year 1902. So an organ can be seen as a kind of inverse of the human body, in that it contains the single organ and many windpipes, whereas the physical human body has many organs and a single windpipe. What comes to mind here when you consider if you've just got this organ with these 7,343 pipes, it can't do anything. So it sort of is referenced in that biblical quote of, I of myself can do nothing. It requires a living being to actually sit at that organ and play it and bring the whole thing to life. So the organism that sits at that organ gives you that 7-3-4-4, because whichever human being it is, organist, whether it be Anton Bruckner or an organist, they will have a single windpipe which you add to the 7-3-4-3 windpipes of the organ, which creates a whole. So you could say that with the sitting in position of the organist, we could almost liken to the descent of the chief cornerstone that brings everything together. So the 7-3-4-4 with the organ and the organist is going to create a sound vibration. By striking chords, these may well strike a chord in you. So let's just move on here. 7-3-4-4 also reveals a secondary number sequence. If we take, in the Old Testament, it's stated that Adam died after 930 years. The 9 and 3 thinly disguises a 12, which is 120 years, which is far more realistic. So we can apply this same thing to this 7-3-4-4. So if we take, instead of 73, if we take 72, which incidentally there is said to be 72 names of God, that is going to leave 1-4-4. Now interestingly, both 7 and 2 make 9, and if you add 1, 4 and 4, that also makes 9. And of course, 7-3-4-4, as I said earlier, is 2-4-4-8 times 3, and 144 times 51. 144 multiplied by 17 gives you the 2448. It's the number of the exit, the Exodus. Interestingly, you've got 24 and 48. So you've got something that then is doubled. So can we apply this 7-3-4-4 and 2-4-4-8? Can we find it anywhere else? And the answer is yes. For example, if we take the Bruckner symphonies and we apply these numbers, so we take his 7th symphony, his 3rd symphony, and his 4th symphony twice, or the 8th symphony, if we add the 2 4s together, the 44 becomes an 8. So symphony number 7 is in A major, and this symphony is very much about death and about overcoming it, about a new day. The second movement conveys the loss of his sort of mentor and idol, the composer Richard Wagner. So those are number 7. Now, number 3, Symphony number 3 in D minor. In its original form, the second movement, again, the same as the third, is a reference to Wagner. The second movement is the third, is a reference to Wagner, in which Bruckner is basically quoting his inspiration, which is a fourth part of his inspiration that gave us the Bruckner symphonies, those being the plain chant of Palestrina. There is elements that are very much like Schubert. That's also part of the blueprint of a Bruckner symphony, and of course Beethoven is the third part. A lot of Bruckner's symphonies follow a sort of blueprint pattern of Beethoven's third symphony, the Eroica, the hero. So now if we use Symphony number 4 twice, that's in E flat major. It's the only one of Bruckner's symphonies that has actually got an official name. Bruckner called it his Romantic Symphony. Now, romantic is an adjective, and I looked at the definition of this. Sorry, I've got the sun in my eyes making this difficult. Oh dear. So the first definition is something that is conductive to a characterized, conductive to or characterized by the expression of love. And the second definition is of characterized by or suggestions of an idealized view of reality. So something that is conductive, something that brings two things together, the two fours. But if we are to combine those and we use Bruckner's Symphony number 8, that has had the nickname applied to it as apocalyptic. So it implies an end of an era. So that's what the 7344 is all about. It's a closing of a cycle of this reality, effectively. But I thought, let's go a little bit further. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's look at Beethoven and see what we get from his symphonies. Now, his symphonies don't have names for his 7th, 3rd, 4th, or 8th symphony. So that's something they have in common. But what else can we find from looking at Beethoven? Well, certainly Beethoven's published works with opus number come to 138. So Symphony number 7 in A major is opus 92. So 9 and 2 makes 11. Symphony 3 in E flat major is opus 55. So 5 and 5 makes 10s or 1. And Symphony 4 in B flat major is opus 60, but we're using the 4 twice to get the 44, so the 6 becomes 12. Or alternatively, if we use Symphony number 8 in F major, that is opus 93. 9 and 3 gives you 12. So you have, whether you use the 44 or the 8, you have 11, 10 and 12 as the sum reduction of those symphonies. So I thought, let's go to Beethoven's year of birth, 1770, which is the midway marker in the life of Joseph Haydn, an Austrian composer who wrote 104 symphonies. So what I found from that, looking at his Symphony number 73, it has the nickname Les Chasses, or The Hunt, which, funny enough, is a theme very much in Bruckner's Fourth Symphony about hunting. And the 44 in E minor, it has the name Trauer or Mourning. I also looked at Symphony 24 and 48. There is no name applied to Symphony 24, but it is in D major. Why do I keep mentioning the keys? Because you have 7 keys A to G, you have 7 chakras in the body. Now you could take A as being the crown, G as being the root, or vice versa, but either way you look at it, you'll find D is in the center. So 24 is in the key of D major. 48 is in the key of C. It has a misattributed nickname of Maria Theresa, because it was written, or thought to have been written, at the time of the visit of the Austro-Hungarian princess of that name, but the nickname has stuck. So it spells out a kind of story from these numbers if we take these symphonies in the order of 7344 and 2448. But can we see this in any other type of music? So straight away I looked at Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, an album released on the 1st of March 1973. Track 7 is Any Colour You Like. Its duration is 3 minutes 26 seconds, which gives a sum of 11 from those numbers. Track 3 is called Time. That gives a reduction from its duration of 7 minutes and 5 seconds. That gives us a 12. So you've got an 11 and a 12 there. Now if we take the track 4 from this album, it is titled The Great Gig in the Sky. So could it be that the great gig in the sky is referring to 2 objects in the sky? Or if we combine the 4 and 4, track 8 is called Brain Damage. Interestingly, The Great Gig in the Sky has a duration of 4 minutes and 44 seconds as well. So if we look at the 2448 for this Pink Floyd album, we get track 2, On the Run, followed by The Great Gig in the Sky, which will be followed by The Great Gig in the Sky again to give the second 4, and then the 8 is Brain Damage. So I thought, let's see if this works with any other albums. I invite you to try this with any albums you may be familiar with, something that really resonates with you. I would suggest looking at the album release date as much as the group name and the title of the album, because that in itself can be very revealing. So this next one, Ultravox, Rage in Eden, it was released on the 11th of September in 1981. I don't think I need to mention how significant that date, not the year, but the actual date is in, say, 20 years after that. Oh dear, this light is dreadful. So if we apply this 7344, using the tracks from the album, track 7 is Ascent on Youth. Track 3 is Rage in Eden. So you've got Ascent on Youth followed by Rage in Eden, which is the war within the mind. And then the 4 is I Remember Death in the Afternoon. So because it's repeated twice, it implies a second life or a second death. Or we can take track 8, which is called The Ascent. So now if we turn to the 2448, we have track 2, We Stand Alone, And then track 4, I remember Death in the Afternoon twice again, followed by The Ascent. So the 2-4-4-8 is almost correlating that it is about an exodus with The Ascent. But there's more. I thought let's try this with another album, so I turned to Linkin Park, 1,000 Suns, which were released on the 8th of September 2010 by Warner Brothers. Incidentally, Ultravox, it was first released by Chrysalis Records. So the 7344 with the Linkin Park album, you have Jornada de Muerto, which it's Spanish. It's something to do with death. I can't actually remember. I should have looked this up. I apologise for that. Track 3 is Burning in the Skies. Now, track 7 and 3 their duration gives the sum of 8. And then if we take track 4, it is called Empty Spaces, which has a sum of 9 for its time duration. Or we could take track 8, Waiting for the End, which seems highly appropriate with the reference that 7344 refers to. Excuse me. But now turning it to 2448. Track 2 is The Radiance, which gives us a sum of 12 from its time duration, followed by Empty Spaces twice, which would come out as a sum of 9, followed by Waiting for the End, also has a sum of 9. So there is a sort of story being told in these song titles that reflects these numbers to some degree. Art, after all, is about creativity, so where better to encode these things than in forms of art, and particularly music, because music, like in the case of the organ, it needs the human interaction to bring it to life. Otherwise it's just notes on a musical score and it can't do anything. Likewise, with the musical instruments, it requires the human interaction to actually play it. So I invite you to apply those numbers 7344 and 2448 to any album that you could say is iconic or something that really resonates with you, and see what you get come out of looking at those song titles in the ordering given. A little bit maybe convoluted this time, very heavily into numbers. I know it doesn't suit everybody, but there is always something to be found in everything, so it is worth looking from multiple angles at things and see if we can find correlating data. What you could call is strange instances that seem to confirm something else. Right, I think that's it for this video. Just happened to notice we got 23:44 come up on the duration. I'm about to step into a very unknown chapter within the next 2 weeks, and I'm very much in a position that I am at the mercy of whatever income I can get through YouTube, due to my individual circumstances. I won't go into that now, but do please look at the description. There is a range of things that I offer. New ways of looking at things, new ways of being able to read things, new ways to be able to interpret things. So this is a sort of taster with the art-based courses that I offer, because I feel it helps with our inner standing of ourselves to then be able to interact with the external world. And as things stand, I'm absolutely terrified of where the future is going to go, but there's no point focusing on worries and doubts. It's take action and turn the situation so it's far more amenable. So that really is the essence of this video, but also imparting something which I feel may be of benefit to you. So do check out the description for what I can offer you, and hopefully hear from you soon. Until the next video. As always, unconditional love to you all.